Hey there, dance fam. So I was telling this story the other night in the Turns tutor class that I'm teaching, and I thought it might be valuable here as well. So I, a long time ago, decided that I wanted to learn how to sew. And so I got a sewing machine as a Mother's Day gift, and I was so excited to learn. And I signed up for some classes, and I went and I started sewing. What I realized when I got into sewing, because I knew nothing about sewing, I just knew that it seemed cool to make stuff, and I thought it was a useful skill, and I thought sewing machines were kind of neat. I don't know. I was just like, I'm gonna sew. So I get into sewing classes, and what I start to learn very quickly is that sewing, the actual part where you use the sewing machine and it goes, brrrr, that is very little of the sewing experience. So what's really sewing is cutting, well, measuring, right? You got to measure, and you cut, and you iron, and you pin. Like, I didn't even know that an iron was any part of sewing. I try never to touch an iron. I mean, I don't like to iron anything, but you got to iron if you're going to sew. And so you're ironing and then you're pinning to make sure that the pieces stay together. So then you can go, and that part of it is pretty like little in the scheme of what I thought sewing was. So it was fine. I learned to sew some stuff. I'm not very good at it still, but I made baby blankets and it was really cool and I loved it. I made some things. But it was eye-opening to me that when I said I really want to sew, the actual use of the sewing machine was not like a huge part of the sewing. You have to have the machine to be able to do what I wanted to do, but like I just pictured myself toiling away at the sewing machine, and that's not how it goes. And that is a lot like dancing, in that in order to do the cool things, like to do the turns, and go, 3, 4, 5 times around, in order to do the big leaps, in order to do all the things that the kids see and really want to do, you have to really break it down into a lot of little pieces that maybe don't seem as fun as the result, right? As the part that you see as like, that's what dancing is to me. You have to learn all of the things, the measuring, the cutting, the ironing, all of that stuff, all the mechanics and the alignment and the strengthening stuff to be able to perform that trick, the flexibility work. It's a lot of work. And so, I don't know, I just thought that was something that might be worth sharing to you guys today, is that dancing is so much more than the just brrrr. Dancing is a lot of the little pieces, the building blocks, the hard work in order to get to that place. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, even if you have tons of natural talent. It takes time, it takes work, and it's not a linear progression. It's not like every time I come to class, I get better and better. What happens is you come to class, you work on a technique for a long time, you maybe get that technique and you're like, rock on, I'm going up. And then you learn a new technique. And now you plateau for a while because working on that technique is hard and it takes time and you have to get better at it. And then you learn a new, and it's more like a stair step than it is a straight line up. So stick with it, keep working. You're awesome.